Hello, my name is Basil from candidate number 00724, I think. This is my IOC on The Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby is a novel written in 1925 by Scott F. Fitzgerald. It is a novel which discusses the attitudes of people at the time and acts as a sort of social criticism of the superficiality of Americans in the early 20th century. This passage is located in the middle of the text, and it is narrated by Nick, but it's found in a discussion with Jordan Baker. So essentially, it is narrated by Jordan Baker herself. This passage, located in the middle of the novel, describes characters through a different lens and plays an important role in terms of the novel as a whole. The development of the setting and atmosphere in this passage is set by Jordan Baker. This is important because her voice is quite different to Nick's, and we see a stark contrast in this difference when they are conversing, because Nick doesn't give experiences like Jordan does when they're referring to Daisy Buchanan, because at this time he didn't know her. So Jordan Baker's experiences are vital in the characterization of Daisy. Jordan represents the moralities of a middle upper class woman and gives a reader perspective on this demographic. She isn't too concerned with status and men, as in relationships that Daisy has with certain young officers from Camp Taylor. She isn't too concerned with that. She doesn't convey an envious tone, but rather a more cynical tone that kind of undermines Daisy. She's very judgmental. So yeah, we are introduced to Daisy by her material wealth. Jordan is, however, quite superficial in the sense that her characterizations are based on material. So when she says things like, she had the biggest banners and the biggest lawn, or she had a little white roadster, these are things that she uses to describe Daisy, as opposed to normal characteristics such as she was a nice woman, she's kind, or general terms we would use. Her language isn't vulgar, and it's consistent, as opposed to her attitudes towards Daisy, which are more sporadic. This is, in fact, vital in setting the atmosphere, because Daisy's lifestyle wouldn't fit with a characterization by Nick. So this I interpreted to reflect Daisy's shifts in behavior and her erratic lifestyle, the fact that her evolution, which we're exposed to in this 30-line passage, her evolution as a character is in fact very shifty, and we see many sides of her. So also, yeah, the fact that Jordan's language isn't vulgar and consistent reflects her background, which is very different to Nick's. And yeah, it gives us also an insight on the values and morals of a woman in the early 20th century. In terms of this passage's importance to the text as a whole, there are several aspects which render this passage quite important. The introduction to Daisy and brief background of Gatsby gives an insight to upper-class morality, lifestyle, and general outlook of people in that rung of society. It is the first time that we see Daisy's we see Daisy from a more introspective lens, in the sense that we know how she acts and what she does, as opposed to just glimpses of her from certain scenes in Gatsby's parties or whatever. Also, we're given an introduction to Jordan. The means in which she discusses her experiences to Nick are very typical of the material focus of people at the time. We see this especially at the beginning, when she says that she was walking along from one piece to another, half on the sidewalks and half on the lawns. But what's important here is that she had shoes on from England with rubber knobs on the soles that bit into the soft ground, or she had on a new plaid skirt that blew a little in the wind. there's nothing really to describe her environment, but rather her in the environment, which is important in her characterization. Daisy is depicted through Jordan's language as a bon vivant, or someone that lives life incredibly glamorously or gluttonously. She's not a very morally conscious person. And while Jordan doesn't seem to really care to slander Daisy, she does show symptoms of envy, which I said she didn't before, but she does show symptoms of envy in terms of her material wealth, not of her as a person, because her descriptions of Daisy and Tom's wedding seems very glamorous. Like when she says he came down with 100 people in 4 private cars and hired a whole floor of the Moldak Hotel. And the day before the wedding, he gave her a string of pearls valued at $350,000. Like, we don't really need to know the value of the pearl necklace, but she chooses to include it. So her choice and her attitude work hand in hand in her characterization. So that's all for why this passage is. That's why this passage is important in terms of Jordan and Daisy. But in terms of it as a whole, this passage is important because for the first time, Scott F. Fitzgerald does narrate this text using a different character. Instead of just giving a conversation between two people, he gives Jordan, through a conversation, the role of describing Daisy. So she does act like a narrator here, and it's pretty extensive. So yeah, we're finally able to see things through a different lens. So to conclude, the upper to middle class moralities, in terms of superficiality and in terms of material wealth, is very much so reflected in this passage. But as opposed to really seeing envy of the American dream in terms of what Jordan perceives that to be, characterizing Daisy, as opposed to that, what we get is more of a sense of Jordan and Daisy being who they are, which puts focus on I lost my train of thought.
That's okay.
Which puts focus on
Well, that's a decent reading of the text. We're at 8 minutes. I'll just invite you to go back through the extract. Can you take one more scan read through? Are there any stylistic elements you think that you might be able to just either expand upon, look at them from another perspective and think how we might interpret them differently, or whether just through one close scanning you might see other stylistic effects employed by the writer which actually lead to an even more detailed reading of that text?
Yeah, I mean, at one point she does say that when she found during the wedding between Daisy and Tom, she found her lying on her bed as lovely as the June night in her flowered dress. But then she says that she found her as drunk as a monkey. So the use of a simile there really compares Daisy to a monkey, which is kind of a negative attribute to have. But it's not used in a condescending manner, because she does say that she found her lying on her bed as lovely as the June night in her flowered dress. So that doesn't speak to Daisy as a woman or as a person, but more the attitudes of Daisy's attitudes. So that's pretty important because
I think this is something you've talked about before, but we have the white roadster and then the flower dress.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the immediate associations a reader might have of Daisy Buchanan, and how are those kind of unpacked a little bit more by Nick and Jordan and the reader as we develop through it?
Yeah, just the fact that she's very concerned with material things, not necessarily who people are and how they're like and how they interact with others, but just the fact that she has this and she has that, you know. So, she touches on who she associates with. She says that she went with a slightly older crowd. She isn't as descriptive as she is when she describes Daisy's things. Like, she doesn't delve deep at all when it comes to who Daisy is as a person.
Okay. Could you, the end of that paragraph at the beginning that deals with her plaid skirt, blew a little in the wind. Whenever this happened, the red, white and blue banners in front of all the houses stretched out stiff and said tut, 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 tut in a disapproving way. Talk to me about Fitzgerald's use of imagery there and some of the effects of that.
Yeah, he definitely does use imagery. I mean, the fact that he uses colors and onomatopoeia through tut, 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 and really gives us an idea of where we are, like where we are in terms of what Jordan is trying to describe. So,
well, where are we? What the red, white, and blue banners? The ticker tape in front of the houses.
We're in front of Daisy Faye's house.
Ah, yeah, and Daisy Faye. Can you talk to me about like, the sort of the class and what she represents about American society? What vision of American society?
Well, yeah, I mean, so we're definitely the fact that she uses imagery here as opposed to somewhere else tells us that that's what Jordan is concerned with. Like, that's what she focuses on. And Daisy, she's discussing Daisy's upbringing and where she was raised. She was raised in Louisville, and she had the largest and biggest banners. So they always looked to Daisy as the epitome of like wealth in that town.
Mm-hmm. And why is it why do you think Fitzgerald chooses to use flashbacks as a narrative structural device?
Because I feel that flashbacks give the most. They induce the most they induce the most imagery. So what the reader is essentially doing is creating the scenarios in his head and seeing what is happening through the use of things like onomatopoeia or the very descriptive language used to describe Daisy's house or her or Jordan's clothes or whatever. So it's effective. So that's why I feel Fitzgerald uses flashbacks.
Mm-hmm. And okay, one final comment. How do you feel that she's compromised herself by marrying Tom? Should she have stuck with the ideal, romanticized relationship with Gatsby?
In my opinion, she should have, but in my opinion, she should have, but I don't think that's what Jordan is trying to. That's what Jordan is trying to convey, because her general attitudes don't reflect that really. Like, she's very concerned with who you're married to and what they have to bring to the table. So I don't feel like she judges Daisy based on that decision, but rather she just comments on the fact that she was drunk and that she I don't think that issues of what's the word when you cheat on someone? Infidelity. When issues of infidelity are something that's very important, because she herself is rumored to be someone that is not very loyal. So yeah, she's not. I don't think that's Jordan's attitude towards her marriage, Daisy's marriage with Tom.
Okay, thank you. 15 minutes.